Hey everyone, it's Jackie Shepherd here. I just thought I would do another collective reading for you, for any of you who are interested. And I suppose I just want to really express the immense joy and appreciation I have to be able to deliver readings, to be able to tune in to the collective consciousness, and to be able to hopefully bring forth a little bit more clarity and a little bit more grounding and a sense of direction for any of you who might be needing that. And of course, in these readings, some things resonate, some things don't. So take what you will, take what you want, and leave what you don't need. But yeah, look, I felt with this reading a lot of bright energy, and I felt a call to action. I felt a really huge call to action. And as I'm saying this, I can see like vibrancy. I can see so much color and light around me in the atmosphere. And this is also very reflective. You know, I'm reading into the collective consciousness now. And so, 2 seconds, that's one of my alarms. Sorry about that. But what I feel is important to really iterate and to really drive home with this reading is that, like, I want to ask you, where are you placing your focus? Where are you placing your focus? Where are you placing your focus? Because where you put your focus is going to affect your inner state of being, and that is then going to create more of that experience. Okay? So begin to ask yourself where you're putting your focus, where you need to unplug from, and where you need to plug back into in order for you to be able to experience the world and life in general, your own interpersonal experience, to be able to experience it in a way that is in alignment with your heart, I'm being called to encourage you to really explore what love is. Not just romantic love, but self-love. What love is even beyond our interpersonal dynamics with community and friends. And yes, it does encompass that, so I'm not saying to remove that or forget that, but to explore other forms of love. You know, for example, sitting down and drawing a picture is a form of love. It is a form of love because when you are doing something you're passionate about, say for example, if drawing was something that you're passionate about, that is a form of love, and it is actually an act of self-love, because when you are following what you truly desire and what you love, you are actually telling yourself that you are willing to act towards being in a conscious relationship and connection with your inner self, with your soul's desires and what brings us joy and what makes us feel enriched is the voice of our spirit. It's the voice, it's us, it's our spirit translating back to us what our inner essence truly is, right? And so I'm being called to tell you or to encourage you to explore what love is in all of its expanded dynamic forms, and to really drive the point home here that yes, love actually is in the shadow. Love is in the shadow as well. So love is there. Do not feel that if you feel overwhelmed or taken by tumultuous or visceral, sharp feelings or emotions or experiences in your life that may resurface as you go on your healing journey. Do not feel that there is not love there. Do not feel that you've stepped away from the light. Do not feel that you've stepped away from love or your inner authenticity. Those are all reflective of the seasons of our lives. And if you approach or view those times in your life where the raw emotions are rising, like if you approach that with the willingness to sit with that and hold that and feel that with love, and to also understand, if you approach that or view that as another expression of love, that will actually help transform those feelings, okay? But that's another thing I want to just explore here. Spirit, going back to those vibrant colors that I was seeing before and I'm still seeing, you know, this goes back to where we are plugging into and where we need to unplug our focus and our energy and our resources and plug back into spaces that are going to cultivate more softness, more groundedness, more lightness, more natural joy, you know, because joy and lightness and these things, they can't be forced. We can't pretend, we can't fake it. It's through action, it's through perspective, it's through where we're putting our energy and our time. And a big message with this, I can just feel it like surging through my body, like this shivers moving through my body now, and they feel amazing. It is so bright, it is so vibrant, is that there are dynamic things happening in our world and in our like personal lives right now. So dynamic, so huge. Where you put your focus is going to be what your world is, basically. It's going to create your sense of reality and your sense of existence. It's going to influence your sense of existence, okay? Your sense of who you are in the world and how you're showing up in the world. It's going to, and it can shift really quickly, okay? So if you're constantly shifting your focus into like negative, boring, positive, mundane, whatever, that those realities are going to shift really quickly. And what we're learning is that we are shifting through our state of being. We are shifting basically what our overall experience is of being alive. So now is the important time to choose more intentionally where you're planting your focus. And I'm glad that word plant just dropped in, because that is exactly what we're doing. Where we're planting our focus is where we're sowing our seeds, okay? It is where we're sowing our seeds. It doesn't mean if we shift our focus back towards, like I'm seeing, like, for example, parklands or a river or nature, you know, I'm seeing something that is disconnected from the surge of turbulence happening in the world and reconnecting back into what is true in the world. We can always trust that nature is going to be true. We can always trust that nature is going to hold us, to bring us back to ourselves, to bring us back to the present moment, if we allow it to, if we allow ourselves to take some self-responsibility, but also there's another word here. It's just called being proactive. So being proactive in like wrenching ourselves. If you have to wrench yourselves out of that state of hopelessness and lethargy and there's another word for it. Hopelessness, lethargy, and procrastination, do that. But I'm telling you, it actually can be much softer than having to wrench yourself out. It is simply, what are you switching off from? If plugging out and plugging back into something else as an image or as an idea doesn't work for you, then use an image or a visual or an idea that works for you. So it could simply be, instead of plugging out, what do you need to switch off? What do you need to switch off from? What do you need to put boundaries on? This could be social media, it could be toxic relationships, it could be so many different things, right? What do you need to switch off from? Like lights, you know what I mean? Like if you were to think about walking around your house at nighttime, you're only going to see where you're switching the lights on, and everything else is dark. Okay? Everything else is dark. You cannot perceive what is around you in the other rooms. Okay? So what areas of your life are you switching the light on in? Okay? What I want to say is, with what's happening in the world, it can feel as though there is so much, it can feel as though there is a dominant theme of destruction, victimization, and chaos. Okay? That is not all that is happening in the world. And I'm not saying to dissociate, I'm not saying to pretend that reality isn't happening when it is happening. What I'm saying is, how are you planting your seeds to create a reality? That's the question, okay? There is so much vibrancy within you. There is so much vibrancy and possibility in the world. There is actually a lot of abundant energy moving right now. We are actually, it may not seem it, it may seem the opposite. It may seem the opposite, but if you plug your focus back into areas that are actually resonant with your heart, that is actually going to be your truth. And when you are vibrating and you are acting within the ecosystems, I'm seeing like ecosystems, I'm seeing like, I'm almost being told that isn't, if it's not here, it's not here. And it's not like, if you're not impassioned and if you're not, if it's not like turning on those inner light bulbs, those inner, like, does make you feel like lifted or so on and so forth, it's actually not your world. It's not your world, okay? It's not for you. So stop playing someone else's story. Now, this is another thing that's really, really huge. I've done another reading, which I'm going to upload, which unpacks this more, but we've been playing through our lives, a lot of us have been playing someone else's story. And we're talking about a lot of entrapment here. We're talking about entrapment. We're talking about, as kids, when we get entrapped into someone else's like belief systems, which then become our reality. Here and here, in our inner power and our heart and our soul, that is your reality. You don't need to play someone else's story. And I've just got to say that we're not playing by the same rules we were playing 3 years ago, 4 years ago, even 2 years ago. We're not playing by the same rules of reality anymore. And a lot of you, whether you emphatically believe this, whether your whole self, or whether it's starting to you're just starting to notice things that are changing. A lot of people now, regardless of whether you're a spiritualist or whether you feel like you are just on someone who is just more down what I see as my reality, reality is as real as what I can see, a lot of people are starting to actually see our realities shift and change in ways where we actually aren't able to really formulate a logic around it. It's almost like that's a lot of things like that's strange. Like, that's strange that, for example, I've been hearing this a lot. I was thinking about someone and they just came around the corner. Or I was thinking about, was thinking about a song that reminded me of a friend that I had in high school, and they added me on social media or they called me. Things like that are happening a lot, but they're not just happening, like, that is a sign of things that are shifting. Trust it and move towards it, even if it doesn't make sense, even if it feels a little bit scary. We're not playing by the same rules anymore, okay? So trust what is showing up for you. Trust, like, it's a bit of a domino effect, all right? So when you step into these signs that might be showing up, the more you step into it and the more you learn to believe that actually something else is real, that is different to what we've been used to, that is different to what we've been sold, keep on going down that track, because that is the alignment with the heart space. I just felt my heart like it oozed with just these beautiful feelings throughout my chest. So trust that and start to create your own ripples by stepping towards the areas of life that are showing up for you through things such as coincidences and synchronicities. Trust that if you're experiencing flexes in time, if time seems to be doing unusual things, trust that and enjoy it, because what that is an indicator of is that we are no longer participating or need to participate in the rigid structures that keep us contracted and stuck in and imprisoned in really reductive ideas and perspectives about who we are. We are so much more than what we have been made to believe we are. We are incredibly powerful, creative, loving. If we were to actually know how incredibly loving and supportive we can be for ourselves and for each other, the capacity that humanity has to love, to care for each other, to heal, to create something new, something that is completely like a completely new paradigm to what we're used to, you would probably fucking do, sorry for swearing, you would probably be doing backflips right now, you know? And some of it, we're starting to awaken to this. So when you start to feel vibrancy move in and start to notice where vibrancy, where possibility and opportunity, whether that's opportunities with your career, where opportunities with new relationships, whether that's friendships, romance, relationship with yourself is the most important. It could be a relationship with nature, with a pet, you know. Trust that. And when you start to feel your spirit lifted, notice where it's coming from and follow those pathways. But here's another thing. Don't limit yourself. For example, if you've got a creative project or a creative practice that you love and you're like, this is me, I do this, people know me for this. Don't worry about what people know you for. Don't worry at all, actually. Don't worry. Just do what brings you joy and passion, what makes you feel strong, what makes you feel true and real. Because each time you're doing that, no matter what it is, it could be going for a walk down the street and just enjoying the temperature, the weather, no matter what it is, what practice it is, enjoy it, because each time you do that, it's almost like you're signing a new, like, I'm not sure, like, whatever you want to call it, a new contract, or just and making a new agreement that you're willing to embody an action and energize a part of yourself that feels right, that feels vibrant. This might show up in many different ways. Like, for example, if something's showing up in your life and in your mind's eye, you might see it as something that's really bright, that's really like flourishing. Go down the pathways that you perceive as something that is flourishing. You might not see it as colorful in your mind's eye, but you might feel lifted, or you might feel just a gentle expansion. Energy around you might change, or you might just know. There might be just this deep knowing inside of you, this deep yes, or go, or do it, or whatever it is. Trust those. Trust and don't do it for other people, do it for yourself. You know, we're not talking about how is this going to be perceived by someone else. Do it for you. do it for you. And as you do this, you're going to start shifting your reality. You're going to start shifting how you perceive your reality, okay? It's going to bring so much strength and spiritual resilience and sturdiness and stability to you for you to be able to manage and navigate the tumultuous storms that are passing through, the seasons, the collective season that we are now passing through, which is quite an intense stormy winter, okay? The old world is crumbling. The old world is crumbling. The old world is absolutely, it's done and it's doing its last kicks. It's having its tantrum. And if you actually look a little bit more closely, you can actually see that they're all much weaker than they are kind of flexing and peacocking themselves to be. Okay? Nothing is more stronger than your heart. Nothing is more stronger than your heart. Become infatuated with who you are. And I'm not talking about that in an egotistical sense. I'm not talking about that in a way where you need to become self-fixated or self-obsessed or so on and so forth. It's more of an infatuation and a curiosity that is in alignment with your heart. What it really is it's falling in love with yourself. Fall in love with yourself. Fall madly in love with yourself and who you are. And anytime you hear voices of self-doubt, inquire into them. And the more you do this, the more you step into this space, the more that you follow your heart's desire and who you are and what seems true to you, the more you step into this space, the more that those negative reinforcements and negative ideas that we have adopted are going to show up. Use that as an opportunity to dislodge them, uproot them, explore them. If you're creative, what you can actually do is use your creative practices to understand them more, to find clarity, okay? But this is really, really around, like, cycling back to earlier, it is around, like, reframing what your perspective of love is, okay? Being more creative with how you love. Love is so important in so many different ways, and sometimes we confuse love for the practice of needing to fill what is lacking within. But actually self-love is being our own best friend and fulfilling that, you know? Finding the ways in which we can be our own, we make ourselves whole, okay? We make ourselves whole. So if you have learnt behaviors that reflect you stepping away from yourself, for example, addictions can sometimes reflect us taking a step away from ourselves. They can reflect us not being able to listen to our inner child or the parts of ourselves that are calling out for attention. Stepping away from ourselves might be, you know, not cooking a healthy feed as much as you should be doing, or as much as is good for you, you know. And so maybe taking the time to cook the right dishes. These are all examples, and we're all going to have different ways in which we might take a step away from ourselves. Asking yourself how you can take a step toward yourself, to become whole, to become more full, and to know yourself. Know yourself, who you are inside and out. There is so much, like, that word infatuation is coming back, but I'm seeing these colors and this vibrancy come through. And, you know, there is this incredible, it's medicine, it's love, it is just a wholeness, and it is a willing for you to fully accept yourself for all of who you are. We all got our shit, okay? Sorry to swear. We've all got it. We've all got our shit. A part of becoming whole and loving ourselves is actually, you know, a part of healing aspects of ourselves that we feel are unacceptable is accepting them. And when we actually accept them and make the choice that we're going to live in harmony with them, that actually creates the process of purge. It creates the process of release. Okay, it's almost like my fingers wanted to do that, so it's almost like, you know, almost like popping a pimple or something. But this has gone on for way longer than I thought it would. But that's basically the crux of the reading right now. I'm going to see if Spirit has anything more to give here. It's like our focus and our attention, not just recently, but for quite a while now, has been put in gardens with soil that is poisoned. Put towards gardens, and I'm talking figuratively here, metaphorically, gardens where the soil is corrupted, or the soil is poisoned, or there's toxicity in that soil. Now, what I'm seeing in this garden is I'm seeing that, as I said before, it's almost like it's someone else's garden. So where have you been investing your focus and investing in areas that are not reflective of who you are? There's someone else's story. And really what we're talking about here is we're talking about toxic relationships. We're talking about and frame toxic in a way that resonates and is true for you. Okay, but toxic relationships where we're not seeing the bigger picture, relationships where we've been forced to really support someone else's ideals, someone else's illusions, someone else's toxic cycles. It's important to understand that toxic people, what they will do, or what they can often do, is they can rope you in to the structure of their reality and their illusion and the structure they've created, and they can rope you in to help and use you to help reinforce their toxic cycles. Because you've got to remember, it's important to remember that people might not even know they're doing this. It's just a part of their reality and what they think is their truth. Okay? And if someone opts in for a cycle of destruction, if someone continually wants to feed and validate and create more evidence around them, which feeds their idea, their false truths, the false narratives of destruction. And this can happen a lot with people who have developed a deeply embedded idea that they are a victim. So what they might do is they might rope people into their lives that are going to continue to perpetuate and prove to themselves that they are a victim by creating circumstances that are destructive. Okay. So be mindful of whose cycles you're playing out, because I'm seeing that garden, that ain't been cleaned. But also, importantly, it's not yours to clean. So we're not talking about, but how do we heal that garden? How do we remove the poison? What we're actually talking about, that's not your garden in the first place. You've got your own garden, and that garden is vibrant. And once you start playing to your truth, to your authenticity, once you start being true to yourself and making that conscious decision to be responsible for your own garden, to clean your own garden, but to also flourish it, prune it, make sure the soil's turned, do everything you need to do to flourish that garden, you are going to watch that garden grow. And, this is the thing about ecosystems and gardens, where people who love to kind of, I don't know, create, vibrant gardens, is that once you've actually got the structure, the right soil, and the right ingredients, the garden will begin to rely on itself to flourish and grow. That's a message that I've got to talk about in a sec. Once you once you start to create the structure, then you need only to manage it. You don't need to start from scratch. It's going to grow itself. The ecosystem relies on itself. You just caretake it and enjoy it, because that ecosystem is you. But this message here was really important. And what I felt here was actually a lot of vulnerability, because what this is also about is self-expression. How you are expressing yourself. And sometimes that can be really, really vulnerable, okay? Sometimes when we're doing this work, we might actually, and will often, come across the parts of ourselves that are bruised. The parts of ourselves that are hurt, bruised hearts, bruised inner child. So it's a healing process, but that healing process is also a part of the growth, because vulnerability and tenderness and understanding that we're just so beautiful when we feel small, and we are also so beautiful when we feel expanded. When you go into that small space where you come across something where your ego feels bruised, or where you a truth might arise that you have been unable to communicate. Then we can feel small, but that's a part of our growth. If you think about it paradoxically, or if you think about it in opposition, go in small to expand. If you go in small to that place where you were made to feel small, or insignificant, or pathetic, or unworthy, to be able to see your own garden grow, to flourish, to see the potentiality of your garden grow into a wild forest, where you maybe have been made to feel that you are not deserving to watch these small baby trees that you have planted grow into ancestor trees, for you to be able to witness the strength and the height and the expanse and the power you have, and the power that you are, or the opportunity to plant your roots, to grow in to the deep depths of who you are. And this is the work that we're doing, and it can be tender, and it can be hard, and sometimes you might find that you're walking around your garden and you're nursing a broken heart. Feel that hurt. Cry, do the things you need to do, and allow your own garden to be the place that holds you and nurtures you. Okay? But no more investing in other people's gardens. No more investing in other people's illusionary illusions and delusions, This here is about listening to your inner child. If you have been neglecting your inner child, or if you have been, and that's not a judgment, because if we neglect our inner child, it often reflects that a part of our child self and our history had been neglected by who was looking after or caring for us. If you've been neglecting your inner child, that is a sign that you have experienced a neglect or something. And so when you start to hear the echo or the voice of something that wants to emerge and be spoken, don't run away from it. Listen to it, journal it, illuminate it. Listen to the voice of your inner child. You cannot underestimate the value and the importance of having a relationship with your inner child. You cannot underestimate that. We can't underestimate the power and the value of knowing ourselves through our inner child. It is one of the most important and most empowering components of knowing who we are. And I think that it is important to speak about if you struggle with connecting with your inner child, and that can happen through many different ways. For example, if you just don't value it, if you don't feel that connecting with your inner child is something that is something that you value or care about, that can be a sign. It can reflect that you may have not had an example set to you when you were a child, that you were worthy of investment and time. If you have, it might show up as an aversion, or you might have so many different responses to the idea of connecting to your inner child, that each might reflect those responses. Look at those responses and look at how you do react or how you do feel at the thought or the idea of doing inner child work or connecting with your inner child, because your responses and how you feel about that will actually hold clues as to what healing needs to be done for your inner child. Like, for example, if you don't value or you don't hold this kind of value for your inner child, it might reflect that you were devalued as a child. If you've forgotten, or if you turn away, if you feel like, I'm getting this image of like turning away. Like there's this almost like there can be this disdain or contempt or disgust, or it could just be apathetic. It could be indifferent. These could be, I'm not talking like readings are never, this is the only way things happen. There are variables here, but it could be a sign like of what you actually experience as a child, because our self-perception as adults and how we think about ourselves as adults actually is informed by how we were made to feel about ourselves as children, and so it's important to think about that. Think about our relationship to our inner child and how we view them. You might view your child as, I don't mean this in a mean way, but like, oh, poor little Baba needs, like, it's like it could be over, sorry. That's just how, hey, I'm a performing artist, so that's how it came out. But like, it could be like over coddling, or or overprotecting. And if you are someone who was over coddled or overprotected, or if you got everything that you wanted, and typically I have my own. I believe that everyone needs, should get what they need, and everything to be able to live a healthy and have a quality life, and feel that sense of inner stability. But what I'm talking about here is, when you over coddle someone, you can also actually disempower them from being self-sufficient. You can also create this kind of this ripple effect into adulthood where it's like, I am the center of the universe, and I don't and if I can't get what I want, then I'm going to have a meltdown. If I can't get what I want and need now, I'm going to have a meltdown. And so over coddling, or and I'm not talking about a flow of abundance. A flow of prosperity and abundance is good for children to have. But when we have received, if we're receiving, it's really what I'm talking about is an overcompensation. Parents overcompensating for their own lacks or their own fear by coddling and ensuring that everything is right for the little child, because if everything isn't perfect all the time, things could go haywire and who knows what could happen, and that actually doesn't equip us into being the adults that can handle rejection, or be creative when we might be going through times of we might not have all of the money at our disposal all of the time. And so being creative and resourceful, but also importantly that, that's also a sign of if you're someone who has this meltdown or freak out when they can't get what they want when they need it in that very moment, that's also a sign of lacking the ability to connect, to be in community mindedness, because it defaults into, I need this, I didn't get what I need, I'm being hard done by, and now I'm going to have a freak out and I'm going to have a tantrum until I get what I need, and whereas community mindedness would actually be, I'm experiencing something, being able to observe what you're experiencing and the emotions, and going, I am not alone. I'm not alone in this. Where is my community? How can I engage in community? And that is different to when I was talking about earlier, to the idea of do it for you. Yes, do it for you. Yes, you are actually the center of your universe, but you're the center of your universe that is in relationship with an overall ecosystem. You can't exist in a silo, you can't exist alone. And so it's finding meeting points and it's finding balance. And what it really is, and many of you have probably heard this a lot, you fill your own cup up so that you can be of service to others, so that you have the resources to provide and to give to others, giving to yourself first. But if that idea comes from a place of lacking, that I need everything to come to me, and if it doesn't, shit's going to hit the fan, then that actually doesn't speak to inner resourcefulness or inner stability in the first place. So thinking of these ideas in our relationship to our inner child and our when we heal, I'm seeing them as almost like points throughout our life and timeline. So for example, adult and child, points throughout our lifetime, small child to teenage, so on and so forth, is that there will be points, and a lot of those core points where we experienced trauma or we experienced neglect, healing those points will actually transform and alchemize our relationship with ourselves as our relationship with our inner child. Now, the reason why this is important is our current perspective of who we are as our child self might actually not be the truth. How we view our child self now might actually not be who our child self actually is. It could be through the perspective of someone who devalued us. It could be the perspective of someone who hurt us or who abandoned us. You know? When I was talking about earlier of what actions do you take in your life that might reflect stepping away from yourself, that could be reflective of abandonment. You know, if you experienced an abandonment when as a child and you didn't have your needs met as a child, you know, a form of abandonment is actually, not being fed properly. A form of abandonment, like your parents might be present, but emotional abandonment. Not them not having the resources or the capacity or the ability within themselves to be able to show up emotionally in a way that you needed to become a full person. And on a deeply unconscious level, it actually translates to ideas that we are unworthy, and similar things. And so, or that I've done something wrong. Children don't, they can't see the bigger picture all the time. And so it often translates to, my primary carer isn't giving me what I need, therefore it's my fault and I've done something wrong and it is about me and who I am. And that can translate then to how we feel about ourselves as adults, but also how we feel about our child self. And so when we go down and we heal that, it actually transforms and you will have a completely different perspective and way of knowing yourself and who you were. And the importance of this is actually who our child self was and is before we started to adopt ideas that are reflective of someone else's truth, not ours, is that who we were is actually a clue, and what we loved, what we desired, what we felt was resonated for us. For example, I remember when I was a child that healing and taking care of the forest was really important to me. And I loved koalas. And I just knew that I wanted to, even when I was very small, something deep inside me just wanted to protect forests and wanted to take care of the koalas. And I look like a koala now. This is hilarious. I'm looking like a koala. But can you actually see the synchronicity here? I'm going to use this as a perfect example of synchronicity. I was just talking about who I was as a child, and this is very, very pertinent to this reading, and who I was as someone who wanted to heal the land, take care and heal the forest, and take care of the koalas, and I just happened to be looking like a freaking koala, and this is so funny. Oh my gosh. It's also absolutely ridiculous because you could be like, yeah, okay, you don't look that much like a koala, but I think I do. But anyway, the point is, I just want to touch on that, is that these kinds of synchronistic, circumstances that eventuate, I'm trying not to laugh, is actually, for example, you now listening to this could take that as a sign that there is a message here that resonates for you, that you are on the right path, that you are supposed to be here right now listening to this message. There was synchronism here, okay? And what was with what energy was with that synchronism? It was laughter, wasn't it? It was joy. It was also ridiculous. And so that might be energy that you're stepping into, that you're resonating with now. So this really, really does go back to the beginning of the reading in terms of actually what joy is available for you, you know, and that humor hasn't left. Humor is still a part of the world. Joy and celebration and also stupidity and ridiculousness. And I say this as I've got these two massive curly bobs, just like like they look like big, I don't know what you want to call them, bobbing. Yeah, anyway, I'm just like losing track here. But that can represent like the joy, or not to take yourself too seriously, you know, that life actually isn't as serious. It doesn't need to be as serious as we're taking it. Also with these journeys, it doesn't need to, with our healing, it doesn't need to be as serious as we take it sometimes. The very fact that we're talking about inner child stuff and how, what are children really good at? They're good at like just having a laugh. They're good at seeing the ridiculously in the world around them. You know, that was really playful. That was playful energy. So that was also really aligned and really synchronistic to the idea of inner child work and healing our inner child. And I want you to now clock, I'm getting this as a message, I want you to now clock how you felt in that experience. And if you did have joy, or if you did laugh, then you know, like that is that playfulness, that is you having a relationship with your inner child, you know, that is it's actually sparking something. It could be creating a ripple effect for you, or a call to action. That joy, that inner playfulness, and that laughter, the ridiculousness is such an important part of life. But that's also so deeply connected to the inner child. You might not have had a positive experience. You might have eye-rolled or gotten irritated. And that's okay. You do not need to enjoy that. But what I'm talking about here is to note what your responses were and to explore, you know, it might be a message, it might not be a message, but if it was, maybe there could be a resistance to that. Maybe there could be, you know, a kind of getting this gritted teeth, this irritation, you know. And so if like there might be aspects of yourself where that make you feel irritated and make you feel like rigid. I kind of want to do this. It's almost like shoving, like it's like shoving. It's like shoving yourself in a corner or shoving yourself in a box. Okay. Shoving that part of yourself who is allowed to be silly, who is allowed to be embarrassed, who is allowed to have a laugh and be ridiculous and not have this curated, perfect look all the time, shoving them into a box, you know what I mean? I'm actually seeing an image of them being pushed into a cupboard and the cupboard slamming shut. Okay, so there was a message there. And see how incredible, how many dynamic messages there can be in just one little experience. It's incredible. Okay, so that is I think there can be some really incredible take homes with this. If not, I hope you just got a damn good laugh. But your perspective as you do that work, moving back now to what we were talking about, you're like, when I was a child and I wanted to do that, I know that I really wanted to heal, and I had this part of me in my heart that was really incredibly empathetic towards people. I really, really just wanted people to be okay, to be safe. I wanted nature to be safe and okay. And I also, even as a child, I got clucky for other children. You know, I remember when I was like 8 years old, I used to love holding newborn babies, and I just used to get so clucky, you know. And so, like, these are all indicators of actually who we are at our core, in our true natural state of being. They're all indicators of who we are and what we want out of life. Now, another memory, I'm getting tired now, see? Another memory was that, actually, no, I'm not going to say that one because it feels like it's going to be a little bit irrelevant. But all of these things can, like, be clues as to who we are as an adult, you know. And now, as a storyteller, as someone who's a performing artist, I actually get to, like, those passions and those desires that I had as a child, I get to not only process them and explore them, but I get to share them with the world, you know. I get to share those values with the world, but also doing this kind of work. This kind of work is healing. You know, I do energy healing work. So I'm actually, through the process of doing inner child work and inner child healing, I actually became reunited with a core essence and a core aspect of myself. Who was the healer? Who was the healer? You know? And what I actually love about this, I did not, like, this choice was not to wear this t-shirt, was just, I just wanted to wear whatever was in my cupboard. And this is like, you know, like, we're going back in time. We're going back in time. We're going back to times, and just the theme of this, because, like, think about this as synchronistic. The theme, like, we're talking about inner child work, of, like, things revisiting our childhood, but we're also talking about how reality isn't the same anymore, and how this both reflects childhood, but it also reflects the idea of worlds and realities that transcend the third dimensional reality. We're talking about going through different dimensions and everything. We're also talking about, like I'm getting here a message of travel. You know, we're traveling back in time. We're traveling back in time. We're getting in that combi van and we're going back, and that's an adventure. So another message coming through here is that when we're doing this work, that it doesn't have to be like, there might be times where it's arduous. There might be times where you feel like you are walking through, like, I'm seeing cold, dark, exposed land, but it doesn't always have to be like that. It can be an adventure. And if you keep that playfulness with you, and if you remember that things, remind yourself that things don't have to be serious all the time, what might have been an arduous and distraught journey of healing might actually be very adventurous, because in the end it is adventurous, because what you discover along your way is more of who you are, and more of who you are actually is bright, you know, it's rewarding. So it does become an adventure of discovery. Okay. Whoa. I'm pretty tired now, but that's basically that's going to be the reading. All right. So we've talked a little bit about the importance of inner child work, the importance of love. You know, this is also, it does connect into the theme of love as well, because what we're doing is we're loving the aspects of our child self that didn't get the love that they needed. Now, that's not a judgment on our parents or who couldn't care for us in the way that we needed. What it is acknowledging that as human beings, our parents are human beings. They can only do, how do I put this? They can only act and engage with what knowledge and resources and awareness they have at the time. So, if they did not have that expanded capacity or knowledge base or like self-knowing, then that is, it's not a judgment on them. Accountability is different from judgment. Consequences is different from judgment. Just to let you know. Judgment, actually, the derivative of judgment is actually the ability to be discerning, to be able to have judgment. Okay. So, when we're exploring this, obviously we will be reflecting on our parents or whoever our carers were. And the importance of this is to just understand that, and you're allowed to feel anger, and all of the natural feelings that have not been processed yet. Let them rise. You know, you're allowed to let them rise and feel them, because that's also you are feeling the emotions that your inner child was not able to feel with the maturity of self-awareness and you know, that maturity and that self-awareness that we hopefully develop as adults. Okay. This process will help you to release and let go. Okay. And to also let go of resentment and so on and so forth. I've really lost steam now, and I'm gonna end this here. But that is the reading, and I really hope that this reading has brought you some more clarity, or has helped support you in direction in your life, or what you want to do, or what you feel you need to do. Remembering that there can be a difference between want and need. What do you need? And when you listen to your heart and your soul, you'll know the answer. You will know the answer. Trust it and step towards your intuition. Step towards what your soul is telling you and what your body is telling you. You actually don't have to do any of that because you have free will. But I encourage you. And spirit is encouraging you. And this is a call to action. So, yeah. Take care. Much love to all of you who have watched this. See you later.